welcome back to Air Tycoon Online. So this is basically a little bit of an update slash episode where we're just going to make some routes and kind of show you guys what's going on in the world. So first of all, we're at 2800 World Traveler Index, and we have the kind of unfortunate news that an economic crisis is beginning. Now, it's a good sign that on the first turn of this economic crisis, the World Traveler Index went up. Which means, hopefully we get a muted kind of World Traveler Index fall and then a good rise. That's kind of the good, best way to get a big difference in the World Traveler Index is basically when the World Traveler Index is going down and random number generator kind of picks how much or by how much it goes down, but you're guaranteed to get a certain number of turns where the World Traveler Index is going down, and you're guaranteed to get a few turns where the World Traveler Index is going back up. So depending on the random rolls on those, you can get a pretty big difference in the World Traveler Index either going up or down before and after the World Traveler Index economic crisis. Anyways, if we take a look at our net profit, we're also doing very well here. Excuse me. We're doing about 400k per turn on upticks. As you can see, this turn was 394k with a 60,000 added branch expense. Which just generally means that this is quite profitable now. We're in the mid 40 for 450,000s, something about that for a profit, which I think would put us probably in third place, which means we're making really good progress towards first place. It doesn't look it too much now with our very, very bad value, but with this much profit, we should be increasing very quickly. Anyhow, what I wanted to kind of showcase this episode is how to make good stopover routes from North American cities. So we've been doing European cities for a long time where it's very, very simple. You pick kind of the biggest city you can find that's a monopoly in North America and one of the biggest cities you can find in either Asia or Africa somewhere, and you go ahead and make a stopover route like that. North America is a little bit different because if you try to do the same thing, you'll find that you can only make a stopover route in the hub-enabled cities, which are yellow. What this basically means is you have to be a little bit more creative when opening your stopover route. So let's go ahead and order some planes so I can show you. So first of all, we need some more Tupolevs. These are, of course, just to enable us to buy more 747s, which are indeed the real money makers. Let's go ahead and purchase as many of these as we possibly can. Let's also check the used market. Yeah. So earlier I got some 707s. These are 707 320s, which means they cannot be used for, stopover routes. So I don't think I'm interested in these. But actually, just because they're so cheap as planes and they're better than... they're definitely better than Tupolevs, is we're going to go ahead and purchase these. We might need to do a cabin renovation on some of these planes for us to be able to use them. But just because they're cheaper than Tupolevs, it's worth it, right? Because the whole point of flying other planes that aren't 747s leased are just so that we can lease more 747s. Anyhow, that should be enough for now. Let's see how many of these we can lease. This is a very premium configuration, so we're not going to want to do that for... most of our routes. Something like this will be better. In fact, this is already quite premium, but I think maybe something like this. Maybe something like this is good. I think the first class might be a little bit too big. Hold up, let me make this like 9 seats and 44 seats. Yeah, something like this. Can we lease? Okay, we can lease 4 of them. Okay, nice. I think I purchased a few too many other aircrafts. I could have leased more. Anyhow, so let's show you guys the way that I like to stop over route using European cities in North American hubs. So what we can basically just do is make a little stopover where the route length is just above 10,000. What you'll notice is if you use a 747, oh, that's a little bit too far. So this is just above 10,000 kilometers. So we get 6 schedules per week. This is a pretty efficient breakpoint, and we're going to be able to make a good profit off this. Though you do need a pretty decent cities here and lower competition. Of course, if these are all competition routes, you might want to even just fly directly or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty uncommon to have a map that's like this, where there's just a lot of untaken, really good routes to North America, North American hubs like New York. we can see that I have a monopoly on routes like Seattle. I just made this a couple turns ago. I was recording that, but the recording kind of got lost. Um, Sao Paulo, like these were all monopoly routes, and we're just slowly turning these into stopovers. So, um, yeah, one way we can make stopovers like this is we can do something like, well, that's not far enough, obviously, but we can do things like this. That would only get 5 schedules per week. So let's see if there's any city we can find just over 2,000 kilometers away, which would give us the perfect number of stopovers like this. Yeah, it looks like Dallas here is the only option. Let's see the competition there. Basically none. It's a pretty low satisfaction plane, so we can go ahead and compete with that. And yeah, just create just more extremely profitable routes. Wait, oh, okay, this is the Rio de Janeiro leg first. Okay, okay. I was a little bit confused there. Let's go ahead and charge a little bit more on the two classes we compete with him with because he shouldn't be much competition flying and playing with that low satisfaction. So there we go. So that's kind of another kind of stopover route type you can do to North America is between South America and the rest of North America. It's a little bit awkward. There's far more routes to Europe. Let's see what kind of better cities we have available in Europe to do so with. I already did Tripoli, Napoli, Pescara. I believe Zurich wasn't taken earlier, but actually now it is, so that's pretty unfortunate. Looks like we got cities like Hamburg. Oh, Hamburg is really poor in this. We have Birmingham and Glasgow. Yeah, those appear to be the biggest cities we do have available. Let's do Glasgow to New York. And then that's a little bit too short, so we're gonna have to go this way. I think Kona might be the best option here. Oh, it's no airport there yet. Okay. Maybe Anchorage? Okay, well, Anchorage is not available. So, well, I can see why it's not taken now. There's no good stopover routes. Um, yeah, that's a bit tricky. I don't want to do something without a stopover route, so I'm actually going to save this for one of those direct 707. So we need something a little bit farther to make an effective stopover route here. Yeah, there's just a bit of wow. There's a lot of people flying to St. Petersburg. Okay, I have no idea why that is. Like St. Petersburg is good. It's a good city with good demand, but not so good that you'd expect that much competition there. And wow, Budapest is a really small in this world. I thought, why is Poland so good? Do you see this Gdansk like a 300? I mean, I know that's not a like a terrible city or anything like that at all in real life, but I definitely don't think a route like that is like Abu Dhabi has a similar amount of demand. I guess this is 1975, and I have no idea if Abu Dhabi grows a lot later. Oh my god, these are just all invalid stopovers. Ooh, that's super annoying. I think San Francisco works actually. Oh, that's a lot of competition. Okay. That's probably not worth it competing with that many flights. So that's another one where we'll fly directly. So yeah, as you can see, North American stopover routes are just quite a bit more tricky. So let's actually take a look at some of these routes. So yeah, this is a stopover 747 actually. And here's the thing, what I noticed is they've de-invested in name value. And what that also probably means is they've de-invested in service, which means my 747 will be a lot more popular than his. So we can go ahead and compete with that. Yeah, I no longer really believe in the no competition way of playing Air Tycoon. Let's see if we can get a 6 schedule per week one, because that makes a really big difference, right? The extra schedule per week. Nope, still 5. Far as Portland. Okay, Portland is way too far. Havana? Like Havana, ooh, Santo Domingo is probably better. Yeah, because Santo Domingo is a much bigger city than Havana right now. That's still only 5 schedules per week. Wow, okay. Well, I deliberately, when making Tupolev routes, kind of ignored some decent nearby cities, but I think it might just be Houston. Let's see if there's too much competition in Houston. There's a considerable amount of competition in Houston. Let's see if Denver's a bit better. I think Denver's a bit too far, but yeah, still 5 schedules. I'm determined to get these 6 schedules per week. Um, that has now become a point of contention for me. So yeah, it looks like Houston is the only major city in the correct range. Um, yeah, maybe New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans is just a little bit too close. Yeah, like as you can see, the range band where your schedules are optimally efficient, it's just really small sometimes. Um, but yeah, it really does make a very big difference if you can find it. And sometimes it's worth competing to fall into that range rate. Uh, so yeah, anyhow, that's another stopover route to New York done. Let's see if we can find a little something somewhere to kind of wrap it up. Ooh, Casablanca looks great. But once again, Casablanca is not hub enabled, which means I don't think I can find a route with enough range to make this a happy kind of route. Yeah. So that will just have to be another direct flight at some point. One thing I can do is I can do Bucharest and then stop over onto Asia, which is I think what I'm going to do here. Let's see if this is 4 schedules per week. Yes, it is. Yeah, so Bucharest is around that 300 business and tour mark, which kind of makes these kind of stopover routes work. So this is fine. Of course, I'd prefer if it was just a little bit bigger, but it's not. So that's fine. And yeah, so that's kind of the way stopover routes with North America is. You really have to kind of look for them. If you can't find them, you can just fly these routes direct. Of course, you can't fly these routes direct with a 747. That's kind of the issue, right? Because the 747 is just such a big plane that it is just quite difficult to fill, right? So you really do need to be kind of careful with that and really deliberately search for all the bigger routes kind of when you're working with such large aircraft. And as we can see, Rome, which is my next planned hub, is kind of lacking good stopover options. I think Japan to some of the bigger North American cities like this are just kind of big enough to make this work. But yeah, those are going to be routes which struggle during bad downticks. Anyhow, with that in mind, I also have some 707s that I purchased from some other players. So as you can see, they're pretty old, but nevertheless, they're going to be really good for some stopover routes that I probably wouldn't make with the 747 because I don't think that they would be good enough. So yeah, like routes like Jacksonville, we can go ahead and stop that in Paris and land that in something like Chiang Mai. Yeah, like these routes are just a little bit too small, I would consider, for a 747, but they're absolutely perfect. Islamabad is really small in this world. Wow, okay. Yeah, so like this is the kind of perfect stopover route. Oh, excuse me, I'm still a little bit sick, obviously. But yeah, like these are actually good routes too for the future, where you can upgrade these to slightly larger aircraft, such as perhaps 767 sized aircraft. Yeah, that's kind of like the end goal with a lot of these aircraft. Like the 707 is of course profitable, but it's just quite small in the sense that even during downticks they're 100% full, which kind of feels good in the sense that, well, your plane's full. I mean, then you're not wasting anything, right? But at some point, it gets harder and harder to find new routes, which could fill up. Which means it's kind of annoying to have to keep looking for them when you can just upgrade your existing routes to a bigger plane, which better suits the demand available. Now, with that being said, this is something I haven't actually mentioned for a really, really, really long time, is if you are looking for success in this game, do not try and fly the plane, which is like the biggest one possible for each route. You want to, it's more important to make sure that the plane you're flying is 100% full, even during the downticks. The reason I say this is because the more important thing is not how much your plane makes, but how much it makes relative to how much it costs. Right, so if your plane is super, super cheap and it makes you only a little bit of money, that's actually fine, right? But if your plane is very expensive and you don't make that much, like if you buy a 747, you purchase it, not lease it, and it only makes 4K per turn or something like that, your airline is just not going to be very profitable. Um, it would take too many like 747s compared to another airline. Another airline flying smaller aircraft, like say a 707, would make something like 3K per turn on that route. 3K per turn versus 4K per turn for a plane that's, like 4 or 5 times as expensive is like something that you're not going to be able to compete with. So always make sure your plane is making the most money it can make, not the other way around. Don't try and maximize the routes. There are almost infinite routes in the sense that you're going to run out of planes before you run out of routes unless you're very, very late game, um, which hopefully we get to, by the way. Um, with the addition of unlimited slots, or not unlimited slots, but instant slot requests, thanks to my purchase, I guess. It's gonna be like possible for me to run a much bigger airline. As I mentioned, I think in a previous episode, in case you missed it, basically you're limited to about 2,000 aircraft, maybe 2,500 if you're really active. When you have to wait 15 minutes for slot requests and 30 minutes for plane requests, right? The reason being is you have to renew your planes every 20 years at least, which means at some point every single plane order you make is going towards renewing your fleet and not adding more aircraft. Um, that point will never happen in this game, right? As much money as you have, you can go ahead and attempt to spend it on more and more planes. Now, replacing planes will be a hugely tedious and annoying task, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it now because you can just order like 200 planes in like 1 hour. You know what I mean? And or like over. It's probably doesn't take that long. It probably takes like 10 minutes. Um, to order literally every plane you need to replace all your old fleet for that day. And then you can go ahead and start ordering new planes to start expanding and opening new routes. I really kind of wonder if you have, like, say, 20 base airports, is it actually possible to fly every single route available for those 20 base airports, right? I don't know. I think that could be a real possibility by late game. Like pushing 10,000 aircraft to maybe something like that. I have no idea. I have to do the math on how many cities there are in the game, and how many base airports you want. Like, if I don't think it's possible to ever fly every route for every base airport. There's just too many, right? Like if, especially when you consider the smaller ones. But um, for I think what I might do is I might set some arbitrary limit, say 200, or say not 200, say like 600, right? And every single city with a business and tour of greater than 600, I will go ahead and open a base there and attempt to open every single route possible to that base. Um, that includes flying. I won't use credits for planes, right? But whatever the longest range plane is available at that time, even if it's a freaking A380, I have to fly an A380 to random tiny cities from medium sized cities like Amsterdam or something like that. Uh, yeah, like I'm just super curious to to kind of see it happen now. I'm focusing on European bases for short haul first because North American short haul actually kind of serves a purpose, right? Which is, for example, if I do a stopover route as such, um, I can fly just random stopover routes like that, right? And these aren't great routes, but they're pretty good. And it's always good to have that as an option available to do little dumb stopover routes like this. So I'm gonna end up deleting a lot of the short haul I make to North American hubs. But European short haul, of course, is less important because your stopover routes have plenty of options on either side. So you don't have to do the weird um, one leg long and one leg short stopover routes. Anyhow, with that being done, let's just go ahead and purchase a few Tupolevs with the remainder of our money, and kind of call it an episode. So, um, one thing I also did want to do is kind of just show you guys what the routes list is looking like. Let's just sort by load factor, I guess, and kind of go through. So here are the new routes. Of course, they're mostly losing money. These are still relatively new routes. Once we get into established routes, we can see that once Tupolev get a little bit old and satisfaction drops a bit too much, you end up with this non-full syndrome, which is it's just fine. Of course, they'd be making way more if they were full. I might do a cabin renovation on those. Even like kind of very competitive 747s do really well. I think this is competing with another 747. Yeah. So like like each half still makes over 3K. I think I don't know if I have any 747s which make collectively under 5K on an uptick. So like when you add both legs of them up, like if we sort by planes and do like a rough view over, we can see that basically every 747 is producing around 8K, right? So that's really good. Let's sort by planes and actually take a look at this. Yeah, like every single one, roughly 8K. This is an uptick, right? So it looks a little bit worse on downticks where there's probably some which drop under 5K. But yeah, we can see even really bad routes like Jacksonville to London are almost full. Of course, it used to be a DC-8 or something like that, or 707, and I upgraded it. So yeah. Anyhow, with that in mind, that's basically all I wanted to do this episode. Is just kind of show you guys how I make North American stopover routes, and just how the company is doing in general. Very fine. Hopefully this World Traveler Next doesn't hit too hard because I want to play, right? And you can't play when you're not making that much money. So hopefully we can maintain our profit through what I'm presumably can be some very bad downticks. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.